Welcome to the Darkstream. I'm VoxDay, voxday.blogspot.com, and Infogalactic News. Before we get into the media stuff, I just should mention there's a new headline up on Infogalactic News. Apparently, InfoWars has come across some documents that indicate that actually prove that the NSA has been spying on Donald Trump since 2004. So this is interesting. No, Richard didn't do anything this time. Anyhow, it's interesting to see, that this is coming out. I'm not even a little bit surprised to find this out because, first of all, the NSA is spying on everyone. Secondly, the denials that they've had and the media reports have always been focused on Obama and not on the spying. And so, they're basically trying to establish this false narrative about Trump saying crazy stuff when they're just basically being pedantic about the details and so forth. Like I said, nobody actually thinks that Trump was saying that Obama drove down to Trump Towers and personally planted surveillance equipment there. I think it's highly unlikely that he gave any direct orders. After all, Thomas More, the king never gave an order to kill Thomas More. He just sort of mused about being rid of a meddlesome priest, and so that's how it works. There's always plausible deniability and that sort of thing. What matters was Trump being spied on, and it increasingly looks like it's going to happen. Always read their Thomas. I thought it was Thomas More, not Thomas A. Becket. Oh, anyhow, the point is that you always have to read what they're saying very, very carefully. Very, very carefully. So, about the shirts, this is just another Dark Lord design crypto fashion shirt. What can I say? The quality's great. Trump it's kind of funny. People will say stuff like that. I literally just pointed out that Trump's telling the truth. And then the guy tries to pop and say, he's like, don't bother asking questions about trolls like that. This is something that I talk about in SJW Always Double Down, is you don't argue with them. If somebody pops up and says, Trump is a lying shitbag, he's not looking to argue with you. It doesn't matter if you provide him with documentary evidence. As far as the still not tired of winning, there's a back to the shirt. So this one's a little different than the 2016 one. So anyhow, and we've got we've got some new shirts. We've got some new shirts coming. So if you're interested, just go to crypto.fashion and we'll have more continuing to come out in the future. Personally, I cannot wait to get my new Rabid Puppies one. I'm looking forward to wearing that. So anyhow, the thing about trolls is they're not there to argue. They're just there to disrupt. They're just there to try to distract. So don't waste your time with them. But the reason that I brought up the subject about not talking to the media again, and I think I've talked about this once before, but I'm bringing it up because there's a woman on Gab, I think Blonde in the Belly of the Beast is her name, very, very attractive girl, smart girl, but she's just gotten to the point now where the media is starting to pay attention to her. This happens a lot faster. The thing that's tough for women is that this happens much, much faster than it does for men. For men, by the time that we come to the attention of the media were pretty experienced for the most part. You know, I don't know if you noticed, but like the New York Times and MSN was pinging on me, you know, about the Donald Trump Jr. tweets and that sort of thing. You know, it's all just ridiculous. I just ignored it. I didn't even bother, you know, mentioning it on the blog because it's trivial. I'm used to that sort of thing. But you know, women, because especially if they're attractive, the media starts paying attention to them right away. And so even though they're not that experienced with it, they, you know, so that's why you had what's her name, Tommy Lauren, going on The View and that sort of thing, and obviously her appearance there was pretty disastrous. And you know, she's not someone who's going to be a significant conservative voice. She's just not. You know, some of the others like Tara McCarthy, Brittany Pettibone, and her sister. You know, they're smart, but they're young, and you know the media is going to reach out to them because that's what they do. They need grist for the mill. They need fuel for the fire, and that's what the role of the conservative is. The media has been trying to latch onto the alt voices. They've been trying to talk to me ever since the inauguration. They've been trying to talk to Stefan Molyneux. They've been trying to talk to all these folks. And so, you know, they've been trying to talk to Cernovich. Cernovich allowed The Atlantic to do that one big profile on him. And I don't think he's talked to them since. And here's the thing, and this is my advice to Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. They are only talking to you because they want you to play the sacrificial victim. They want to feed you to it. Now, you're always going to hear from these morons who have no experience of the media whatsoever. You're going to have these secret king gammas who have their super secret strategy about how they would handle it and how they would do it right and whatever. And they don't know what they're talking about because it's always been done. Okay, this guy's a loser. Let me get rid of him here. Anyhow, even Milo. You know, I've said for a long time that Milo is the one exception because I've seen him go on Sky TV and I've seen him actually adroitly evade their traps and end up you know, making the other side look bad. But even he ended up getting nailed in a friendly interview. You know, he was in a friendly interview with Joe Rogan, and he still managed to get caught that way. You know, and so somebody said, "Well, you know, what's your experience of it? Why do you?" This is funny. These guys are guys, ignore the trolls, okay? You don't need to talk to the trolls. All you do is provide an additional distraction. Just ignore them. I'll take care of them. So, anyhow, my experience was, you know, first of all, you have to understand I've been in the media for a long time. I've been nationally syndicated 3 times. I was the 6th columnist from the St. Paul Pioneer Press to be nationally syndicated. And so I think I started contributing to the St. Paul Pioneer Press when I was 23. So I've been doing this for like 25 years now. You know, I know what they're like. I know what they do. I know how they play. I know their language. And so what they do is when they go to do a story, they have already not only got it written, the editor already knows what the story is. The headline is already written. So now what they do, and many times the story itself is already written. So all they're doing is they're going out to get quotes to fill in the blanks. They have they'll literally have the story written, and then it'll say, quote from alt-right figure, or quote from conservative woman. Okay, so all you're doing is filling in those blanks for them. And so and they will be very, very patient in terms of in getting what they need in order to fill in those blanks. I'll give you an example. During the Rabid Puppies 2015, Wired magazine latched onto the story, and they had a reporter call me up, and she really wanted to talk about rabid puppies and really wanted to do this. And the thing is, this was August 2015. SJW's Always Lie was just about to come out. And I actually sent her, I thought that she, I knew that she was probably writing a hit piece. I mean, I knew that she was not on the side of the rabid puppies. But I didn't mind that. Whatever she said being negative about the rabid puppies didn't matter, right? And she really put in an amazing amount of time. She actually read, unlike people who like later pretended to review the book, she actually read SJW's Always Lie. She asked me good questions about it. And so I'm thinking, hey, okay, this is Wired. I used to read Wired. This is not like a newspaper reporter. She's doing in-depth work. She's asking good questions. We ended up talking for like 2 hours, and then she called me back to go for another hour. I was like on with her for a total of about over 3 hours until 3 a.m. my time. And so I'm thinking, okay, and what does she focus on? And this is a story about the rabid puppies, and she uses it as an attempt to try to discredit and disqualify me as a racist. She ends up asking some questions, because what they do is they say, oh, I'm just trying to get background and stuff. So, you wrote this thing, 10 years ago. And so I'm just, I just want to know about what you think about that and this sort of thing. And, so you answer them. And so, I answered her honestly. So she ends up using this anecdote about a very serious problem in Europe. They're having a problem in Europe. There's actually signs all over the various train stations in Germany and Switzerland and even in Italy that show people not to defecate on the toilet seats. And so, I made a comment about how, because she was asking about immigration and that sort of thing and why I was opposed to it. And I explained, well, here, this is a real problem. Here's how bad it is, and I mentioned that. So she ends up, basically trying to claim that, I'm so racist, and I think that, all Africans, whatever, do this and whatever. And this was actually, this was a serious hit piece. That section of it had nothing whatsoever to do with the Hugo Awards, to do with science fiction, to do with my book. She never once mentioned SJW's Always Lie. She just simply used it to try to get me to put my guard down. And the funny thing was, and the thing is, this actually caused some trouble between me and some people on the right of various ethnic backgrounds who were tremendously offended by this. And so, now the interesting thing is that about 2.5 months later, the Daily Mail and some of the English newspapers picked it up because they started having problems at a UK university with exactly that thing. And it was funny because all the stories, they started showing these signs that I had been describing. And so, that was why it was, some of my social media allies were then able to defuse that issue because they were saying, hey, look, Vox lives in Europe. He was just explaining something that's going on there. It doesn't have anything to do with him. And so, but that was the one lesson. Now here's the other lesson. It was also related to Gamergate. And what happened was a media wannabe named David Pacman. He decided he was going to try to make his name by covering Gamergate. And he'd actually covered the initial, he'd done one or two interviews, but mostly with the left wing of Gamergate. Gamergate was not actually the right-wing thing it's often portrayed as. About 2/3 of the Gamergaters were actually of the political left. Gamergate was apolitical. And so we ended up, so Pac-Man calls me up and says, I really want to interview you, this sort of thing. We want to talk about Gamergate and all this sort of thing. And so we're like, okay. I'm like, okay, fine. So he calls me up and immediately tries to, not immediately, I shouldn't say immediately, but we barely talk about Gamergate. He immediately wants to talk about some columns that I'd written for WorldNet Daily 12 years before, and was trying to hold me accountable for a single phrase in the headline, which, keep in mind, I don't even know what he's talking about. I mean, this is something that I'd written 12 years ago, so I kind of try to defend my position, which I more or less did. But what really angered me later was two things. Number one, he had what he was pinning on me was something I had not written. Now, I didn't realize it. I didn't know exactly what he was talking about. Because I remembered the column. I remember writing the column, and I remembered more or less what it was about. But I couldn't remember writing the phrase that he was complaining about. And it wasn't until I went back and looked it up that I realized that he was actually talking about the subtitle of the column. Now, if you're familiar with the media, and this guy certainly should have been, I don't know for sure that he was, because like I said, he's a bit of a wannabe. He's not a professional. But any professional journalist or columnist knows that usually the editor writes the headline, and certainly the editor writes the subtitle. I never wrote a subtitle once in 15 years of writing, or 12 years of writing columns at WorldNet Daily. The editor writes those. So this guy is accusing me and expecting me to defend something that I didn't write 12 years before. And then to top it all off, he claimed he lied about saying that when I complained to him about the interview, I said, what was going on? I complained about it on my blog, and he comes back saying, "Oh no, I didn't say it was just going to be about Gamergate, and I never said anything like that." Well, unfortunately for him, I'd actually recorded not only the interview, but I'd recorded the conversation that went into the interview. He didn't realize I'd been recording it, and so I caught him in a blatant lie. And you can look all this up on voxday.blogspot.com. But here's the point. The only reason that worked with Pac-Man was because I have a big blog and he has a very small YouTube show. Now, that's not going to work if you have a small blog or a small YouTube channel and 60 Minutes does it to you, or the Wall Street Journal does it to you, or the New York Times does it to you. So that whole idea of, you record them, and then if they portray you in a bad light, then you can release the recording. Well, that doesn't matter. It doesn't do you any good, because your audience is not their audience, and they don't care about your audience. They don't care, how you're going to, I don't know how many people are watching this tonight, 300, 500 people. They don't care about 300 or 400, 500 people. They care about the 60,000 people that they're broadcasting to, or that are reading them, and that sort of thing. So, the point is, it is not a benefit to you. You're not going to, one of the things that the blonde in the belly of the beast was saying is, well, I'll have, I'll maybe be able to expose, get some exposure and that sort of thing. No, the exposure is going to be negative because they're going to edit you. They're going to make you look they're going to put you in a bad light. They're going to make you look like an idiot. And they are going to, they're going to talk to you for 3 hours just to get a 15-second fragment that they can nail you with. And that's what you have to understand. The entire exercise is a dishonest exercise to cram a square peg into a round hole. So, what size is my T-shirt? It's a large. I don't know why. I think people sometimes think that so some of my fans like to give me a hard time about being short and small, and it's what they don't understand, because my friends sometimes give me a hard time about that. What they don't understand is that I grew up in Minnesota, so I am small by giant Scandinavian standards, but I'm actually the size and weight of a NFL cornerback. So I'm not really I'm not a small guy by. Do I like black people? I like some. I don't like others, just like anybody else. I also, that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, is I was an NCAA Division I sprinter. So I probably know, like Jack Kemp used to say, I've probably showered with more black men than you've ever spoken to. Anyhow, yeah, I haven't seen this other guy. People have been saying this YouTuber who's been under attack. It sounds like he's doing all the wrong thing. That's one of the key things. And yeah, this guy is getting boring. Let's get rid of him. You don't apologize. An apology is exactly the same. An apology is exactly the same thing as a confession to the police. There's no reason to do it. They're not interested in what you feel. They're not interested in your sincere whatevers. All they want to do is get your confession so they can continue to hit you over the head with it, discredit you, and disqualify you. That's right. An apology is a scalp to the media and to the SJW. I don't understand your shirt, Trump slide. It means that Donald Trump is going to win in 2020 by a large majority in the Electoral College. That's what it means in 2020. And for those of you who are skeptical, I will remind you that Dark Lord Designs had Trump Slide 2016 shirts long before, before the election. Am I for Trump? Of course I'm for the God Emperor. We prefer to use the term God Emperor around here. Show proper respect. So no, we don't want Ivanka. We want Donald Trump Jr. This guy's crazy. Anyhow, the thing is, Donald Trump Jr. is my favorite out of the Trump family. The other ones are serious, but he looks like he wants to go Grand Inquisitor. It's fantastic. So anyhow, that's my response to the question that Blonde in the Belly of the Beast was asking. No, it's not worth it. Do not talk to the media. The only circumstance that you can reasonably talk to the media is insist on written questions and provide them with written answers. Most of the time they're not going to use them, but what you can do is that then you can then release your answers separately. And so, the New York Times contacted me Politico contacted me. They sent me questions. I answered them. They, of course, did not run them because the answers are too intelligent and the answers are too reasonable. No, you can't. No, look, what part? Look, why do people keep asking these stupid questions? Demand final edit. No. What part of don't talk to the media is hard to understand? You are not going to get final edit. Not only are you not going to get it, the reporter doesn't even have the ability to give it to you. He doesn't have that authority. So you will never. No, you can. No, you cannot demand a final edit from the media. You cannot demand anything from them. You will not even know what they're going to do. So the point is, don't talk to the media because all you're doing is helping them and filling in the blank of the pre-written story. Okay, this guy is just a retard. You see, this is a good example. I mean, this is exactly what trolls do. They're not there to actually have a meaningful conversation. They just want to distract and disrupt. Now, sometimes you need to let them ask a question or two to correctly identify them, and that's fine. But the point is that just don't play the media's game. Don't play the trolls' game. Okay, question. What's the first thing a recovering gamma should do? Focus on always ruthlessly telling the truth and admitting that you're wrong. So, gammas are addicted to self-delusion. Gammas are addicted to not being seen to be wrong and not admitting that they're wrong. And so if you're going to break that cycle, then you need to be able to admit first to yourself and then to others that you're wrong, because that's the only way that you can learn. That's the only way that you can improve. Everybody is wrong. People sometimes, I've talked before, people come running to me and saying that, oh, did you hear, Mike disagreed with you here, Milo disagreed with you there, Stefan disagreed with you here. So what? Of course they do. Everybody disagrees with somebody. Everybody disagrees with everybody else at one point or another. And, like I've said, I disagree with some of my own positions from 10 years ago. 10 years from now, I have no doubt that I'm going to disagree with some of my positions today. That's okay. That's fine. Nobody is right all the time. The goal is to be as truthful as you can possibly be. And when you lose, when you fail, learn from it. And unless you admit that you failed, unless you admit that you lost, you can't improve for next time. So, lying to yourself is intellectually cancerous. It destroys your ability to think. It destroys your ability to learn. That's why. Have you noticed that gammas and SJWs tend to really behave and communicate like junior high kids? It's because emotionally they're basically frozen at that state. They're in a form of their intellectual development has been stunted at that point because they basically can't bear to admit that they're wrong. So even when they change course, no, that's not just like Trump, and you, my dear troll, are out of here. It's kind of funny that the guy saying that about Trump. Trump is exactly the opposite. Trump is a super alpha. What does he do? What is the one thing that you see Trump do constantly? He does something that's called A/B testing. He puts two different possibilities out there so that he can make his decision on the basis of which reaction is better. That is not something a gamma can do because the gamma can't admit that one of those courses is wrong. So there's a difference between never apologizing and never admitting that you're wrong, especially to yourself. I mean, I don't apologize at all. Not in public. And again, when people are saying never apologize, we're not talking about in your personal life. You know, I mean, if I do something hurtful to my wife, absolutely I'm going to apologize to her. You know, if I cut someone off in traffic, you know, I'm gonna, hey, sorry about that. You know, if I'm playing soccer and I don't make a pass to an open teammate, I'll apologize to him afterwards. Never apologize doesn't refer to your personal life. It refers to how you respond when you are under pressure to apologize in a public situation. That's why you don't do it. Well, yeah. I mean, we're talking. Yes, exactly. We're talking about this in a political context. Well, yeah. I mean, but what you're talking about there, saying that people are afraid to admit fault because they don't want to be held accountable to it. That's in that sense. You know, gammas live based on fear. If you can't admit you're wrong, if your life depended on it, you're a failure. You know, you're going to not only fail, you're going to fail reliably because you're not able to correct your course. And so, you know, it's vital to understand that. You know, I mean, you know, for example, I was looking back at a game that I developed years ago. Now, it was a huge mistake because here we had, we did it was the very first 16-bit color game. So we were the first game to use 32,000 colors instead of 256 colors. So what did I do? I set it on the moon. Now, that was insane. This was Rebel Moon Revolution, or Rebel Moon Rising. That was really, really stupid. Because what is the moon? What does the moon look like? Black sky, gray dust. Okay? You know, I was thinking that, well, you know, the contrast of the glows of the lasers and stuff will be really cool. Well, that was really stupid, especially when a couple years later, Unreal comes out, and you know, they go over the top garish. And it really worked effectively for them. It really worked well. And so, you know, if you just look, I mean, it was really kind of painful to me to look at the screenshots when I was teaching the dev game course, because I put these screenshots up, and they're just you know, randomly assembled screenshots from different games. It was Doom. It was Dark Forces. These are all 2.5D games. Rebel Moon Revolution, Rise of the Triad, all that sort of thing. And the thing that was so frustrating about it was you could tell just by looking at those screenshots, you could put them in order of their success from one screenshot. And I was looking at that, you know, and I realized not only did I make a major mistake in the setting of the game, but you know, I had also somewhat failed as a producer because you know, each step of the way we did the art and it was pretty good, but it wasn't, you know, perfect. And so you look at it, and then when you look at it all together, what you realize is that all those decisions of pretty good, pretty good, pretty good, pretty good, when you multiplied them out, you had something that, as a screenshot, just a simple screenshot, looked mediocre. It wasn't terrible. It was better than Rise of the Triad. It was better than one of the other games that we had up there. And it had done better than those games. But, you know, it was not, it was a mistake. And so I've learned from that mistake. What would have happened if I refused to learn from it? What if I said, no, that game did 6 million copies. It was a huge success. We did great. Why should I change anything? You know, 6 million copies is pretty damn good, right? But that doesn't matter because that aspect had nothing to do with my decisions as a designer or as a producer. And so you need to learn from your mistakes. You need to admit your mistakes. what books are on my shelves. Quite a few, actually. So anyhow, that's the lesson. But just to repeat, don't talk to the media. Don't come up with some clever excuse justifying why you can or why you should. Just don't do it. You know, there's a lot of us who have, between us, have probably 50, 60 years of experience with the media, and we are all telling you the same thing. And that's a great line. That's a great line from Andrew Torba. Just tell them you don't talk to fake news. Anyhow, that's all I have. So it'd be interesting to see what the God Emperor has for us this week. And so have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.